Hello, and welcome to my full spoiler-free review of Project Hail Mary. If you have any suggestions of movies you'd like me to review, please do tell me in the comments. Project Hail Mary is a science fiction movie directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. It is based on the book of the same name by Andy Weir, a book that I had to buy after seeing this movie. I had a hard time writing this script because I could not find the words to explain how much fun I had watching this film. Everything about it has been done so well, and it all works incredibly well together, which is just as important. I think the most important thing in any space movie is really how it looks, and thankfully the cinematography here is just spectacular. I mean, you pause any moment in a scene and it could be a poster. I think they've done a really good job in translating emotion and meaning through just the way the movie is shot, and the lighting is just masterful. One thing I also have to talk about is color. This movie is so vibrant and colorful and beautiful. I think a lot of space movies tend to lean towards muted or block colors, and I get why. Obviously, the main themes are space and science, and the kind of mental image you get when you hear these words is sterile, cold, contrast with the dark black space and bright white labs. Project Hail Mary is fortunately not afraid to go the other way, and I think it's this vibrancy that really helps it to stand out so much. And this vibrancy is not limited to the visuals either. I mean, each character is so wonderfully colourful. Ryan Gosling was the perfect cast for Ryland Grace, and I think he really nails the wit and the charm and the nuance of the character. I'm usually a bit skeptical when a big A-list actor is the focus of a movie's promotion. A lot of times they kind of become the crutch of the movie's success. This is absolutely not the case for Project Hail Mary. Gosling is great, and he gets to show off his range, which I thought was really impressive. Honestly, everyone in this movie was good. And the way they play off each other, the way they interact and have dialogue, it was so natural and beautifully written. I truly cannot praise them enough. And speaking of writing, I think that the balance struck between humor and seriousness throughout the story is just unbelievable. It's really a testament to the skill of the writers. Now, I have to talk about something, and while I don't consider this to be a spoiler, if you really want to go into this movie completely blind, skip ahead to the timestamp you see right now. So, the thing I really have to talk about, Rocky. The fact that a character with limited vocabulary, no face, and no human-like body is able to have so much personality and ability to convey such deep emotion is just remarkable. I know that this is more a credit to the team that puppets him, because yes, he's an animatronic, and the CGI team, rather than the casting. I still had to bring it up. I also have to praise Daniel Pemberton's score here. I think his compositions for this movie are masterpieces, and I've been listening to the soundtrack while making this video, and it just brings up so many emotions I felt while watching the movie. You probably know him from his work on the Spider-Verse movies, but he's behind so many other fantastic soundtracks, it's really no surprise he knocked this one out the park. In terms of the editing, I really have no notes. This movie is over 2.5 hours long, and I sometimes get the impression that the longer a movie is, the more it tends to drag on, but thankfully, I never got this feeling for Project Hail Mary. Every scene felt so fluid, and overall, the pacing was extremely well managed. I never felt like I spent too long in a moment, but they never rushed them either, so by the time it was all over, I felt really satisfied. In my last video on Dead Man's Wire, I talked a bit about the challenges a movie faces when tasked with being historically accurate, and here I get to talk about scientific accuracy. Now, I am in no way a scientist of any kind, and I cannot pretend to be either. I have no doubt this movie isn't perfect, as, just like any other movie, sacrifices obviously have to be made for the sake of better storytelling. What I really appreciate is that this movie refuses to use this as an excuse to be lazy. What I mean is, wherever the story can provide an explanation for something, it usually does, and it never leans on the trope of, this thing is possible because this is sci-fi, so it just is. And for the average layman, like me, this means that the clever, complicated science stuff is never avoided, but also doesn't feel all dumbed down, which I really appreciate. Anyone who has seen The Martian, which is also based on an Andy Weir book, knows exactly what I mean. This is usually the time where I would bring up criticisms I have, but I really struggle to think of any. If I had to nitpick, I would say that there are a few loose ends that the movie doesn't really tie up. Like, there's a few details that aren't really explained, but then again, this is an adaptation of a book. There's significantly less time and room to explain things. If I had to guess, the questions I have that kind of go unanswered probably do have an explanation in the book. It's just that they aren't critical enough to be worth the time in the movie, which I 100% understand. No adaptation can be perfect, and I genuinely don't think it needs to be to do justice to its source material. I get why these details may have been left out, and it doesn't affect my opinion on this movie. That being said, I'm giving Project Hail Mary a 10 out of 10, and I think it really deserves it. I would even go as far as to say that for me, it gets a spot in the big top 3 of sci-fi space movies, that being 2001: Space Odyssey, Interstellar, and now this. I already cannot wait to go see this movie again, and you should too. Thank you so much for listening to my review. I would love to hear your opinion on this movie in the comments, and I would very much appreciate it if you subscribed. I would be even more grateful of any support to my main channel. I've posted my first short film there, and I'm working on the next one. Thank you all again, and I'll see you next time.